Our speaker tonight is Alan. He comes to us from the Triangle Club, and while I don't know it firsthand, I do hear he's a regular attendee of the Rock and a great sponsor to have. But I have faith that there is a lot of experience, strength, and hope that comes with a 1989 sobriety date. So with that, we have Alan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan Siegel. If the name sounds familiar, that's because that was my brother that read the promises. Okay? So if you don't believe it's a family disease, there's proof, okay? My sobriety date is 10/17/89. It may not be a big deal to y'all, like I always say. It's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to my brother and my family, okay? Born in Atlanta, and let me go back one more. Brother my sobriety date, 10/17/89. By the grace of God, I haven't found it necessary to have a drink in over 36 years. That is a big deal. Okay? And other substances. But born here in Atlanta, matter of fact, 6 miles from here? Born in Drew Hills, Emory. I told a few of my friends who I grew up with that knew me and that didn't drink, and not one of us, who I am dear friends with, that I was telling my story, and they said, "We don't need to come, we know your story," okay? They actually, and Mark will verify it, when I used to drive through the neighborhood to visit or come to see Mom and try to beg for money, they turned their alarms on and locked the doors and put the burglary and the whole thing because they knew I was coming. But I am now fortunate enough to go to their house, babysit, was in my brother's daughter's wedding, were in 2 other of my friends' daughters' weddings, and it says a lot about this program, what it's done for me. So getting to my story, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, and what it was like. You know, it was wonderful at first. I'm sure everybody can agree to me. You know, my first drink, it was wonderful. I felt whole. It just filled this big void, and I drank. I got introduced to the other alcohol as my first sponsor, who used to be member here who's passed away. I've had 4 sponsors. All 4 of them were through this clubhouse, through Thursday night men's meeting, okay? That was my regular home group till things changed, and moving and all that. But the thing about this whole deal is that through the sponsorship, I came in here with 30 days sober, shaking. I used to laugh, and I couldn't stay sober. I used to sit back there when they closed that thing near, I can't remember his name, he hadn't been here in years, and they used to hug me and tell me, keep coming back, and I just came to use the phone to call the dope guy, okay? You know, if they dropped me off, I'd wait for the meeting to start, my mom would go home, and I'd go to the old telephone that was right by the front door and call the dope guy, and then I'd sit back there and drool, and after the meeting they'd hug me and tell me to keep coming back. Well, I did. It took me 17 years later, but I came back, okay? So, to let y'all know, you know, it is when it's time, you'll know. When the teacher appears, you'll learn. And it took me 17 years of hard knocks. But I'm very grateful for those 17 years. I'll never trade them in for whatever I got today. Okay, it's a big deal. So getting back to, I was born and raised here, ran the streets here. I can tell you all the crazy stories and all the rock and roll superstars that I hung out with, which is true. The first time that my brother ever got stoned due to my thing, it was, I think, was it with Rod Stewart? Okay. Rod Stewart was at my house, okay, and I couldn't find him for 3 days. But I did find him. I found him. He was between the bed and the wall, and he called me Bubba and said, "Bubba, now I know what you're talking about." So I have a lot, good and bad, you know, as we both sit here with over 30-something years apiece. So, but now before I go any further, Tim, I'm sorry I forgot at the beginning to wish you a happy 23, because I know Tim and I know the other Tims since they came in, and I met Tim at the Rock. And he reminded me today when I called him to tell him happy anniversary that I was one of the few people that sat down at the table when he couldn't talk, and I listened to him babble for a couple hours. But it was the same way when I went to the Rock for the first time. I identified exactly what Tim told me. Exactly what happened. I sat by a tree and a guy came along. I won't mention his name. He came in and he sat and talked to me for 2 or 3 hours and listened to my bullshit. Okay, and but that's how this program works. It really does. I can look at the room and I recognize people from different places and in places that I've met. But so I ran the street hard, real hard, and by the grace of God, that I didn't go to jail, but I didn't go to federal penitentiary, where a few of my friends did, who are now sober, believe it or not, by me being an example. But by the grace of God, there I go. It was really the grace. But I ran hard, and then when I finally got my first sponsor, who was Emmett, and his wife Jan worked in the office here, and Emma grabbed a hold of me and gave me my first white chip. And it wasn't at AA meeting. I went to a CA meeting, and I wound up being the GSR of that group. But cocaine was not my choice of drugs, okay? But I never forget, at my first anniversary, when he gave me my chip, and I should have brought it in, because he gave me the book, Daily Reflection, and I read that daily. Okay, that's my Bible. But he came up, and Emmett was a drinker. We never talked about drugs. He came and gave me my chip, and he says, I'm Emmett Kirkland. I'm a drug addict. And my mouth dropped wide open, and I didn't understand that, okay? He's a drug addict. And I'm going, so after the meeting, after the chip, I said, what are you talking about? And he says, well, the oldest man-made drug is alcohol. So, no matter what, I'm a drug addict, whether it's alcohol, white powder, or whatever you did. My first drug of choice was really alcohol. No doubt about it. And I enjoyed it, and I won't tell you I didn't. And I got introduced to it in the late 60s. When I finished high school, I was a ball player. I wasn't a great student. My mother used to tell people she's Marco verified. She saved all my report cards from kindergarten on, and she showed every one of my friends, whether it was my regular friends, my girlfriends, anybody I brought to the house to eat dinner. And she said, "Let me show you Alan's report card. He never failed anything. He wasn't a great student, but he failed one subject. It's the same subject for 12 years or 13 years each time. It was conduct." Anybody identify with that? Okay. And it said, plain and simple, Alan can't sit still. Alan can't keep his hands to himself. Alan just blah, blah, blah. And it was true. And so, back then they didn't have any treatment for ADHD, which I had been diagnosed of having. So, what did they do for me? They sent me, y'all are probably too young to know this, they sent me to Evelyn Woods speed reading school. I can't read and remember what I read from Daily Reflection from this morning. I can read it on my phone again, but I can't tell you what I read. But they sent me speed reading school. It really helped, okay? So as my life went on, it went just like that, As a ball player, whatever, it didn't matter. Got into fights, got into trouble. I'm sure everybody could identify with that. I was the leader of the pack. I needed attention. Okay. That's another thing I'm sure everybody could identify with. So, to move along with my story to get to the point, what happened is like, as I grew into my addiction and really got out of control, and like I said, by the grace of God, I wasn't killed or didn't go to federal penitentiary. I ran hard and got in a lot of trouble, and my father was very good friends with the sheriff of DeKalb County. Now, to show you what kind of trouble and attention, I had a friend that I played ball against who went to Avondale, and I went to Druid Hills, but we were running buddies, and we dated sisters, and on Sunday, his father was a member of Druid Hills Country Club, and it was a esteemed country club. And there was no beer served on Sunday in Atlanta, Georgia at the time when I was growing up. So we wanted beer after getting loaded, okay? And John says, well, my dad belongs to Druid Hills Country Club. And underneath the pro shop, they have a Coca-Cola machine full of beer for the members. So we went, and I had dated this chick that had a young baby, and we took the baby, and John took my girlfriend's sister, and we went to Druid Hills Country Club, and we decided we were streaking the Druid Hills Country Club down to the Coca-Cola machine and empty it out. We took a bunch of quarters and we emptied out the Coca-Cola machine. As we were walking, the guy playing tennis approached me and says, you can't be doing this. So what did I do? I took the tennis racket and beat him with the tennis racket, got in the car and drove off. And P.S. My father got a phone call from the sheriff at the DeKalb County. Says, your son is going to make the paper. Let's go do something about it. But by the grace of God, that wasn't the best thing. My father was kind of like helped me with my drug addiction by looking out for me. So what happened after all this, and I can tell story after story, but to get to the point what happened there is, by the grace of God, my brother and I were partners in business. God knows you don't know about that, okay? And believe it was a successful business. Don't ask me how. I'll never know that. But we had a bar and for our customers and friends would come by. And don't ask me how we did it, but we had a business, and finally got to the point that let me go back with my ADHD before we had the business. I want y'all to relate to this. We hear about geographical changes, okay? So I want to step back. In 1982, when my addiction was just about to peak, I decided I was trying to get sober, and I came up with this. Well, I didn't come up. Some other people in my family and friends came up and suggested that I should go to Israel. So believe it or not, I got a one-way ticket to Israel with $200 in my pocket. Didn't know anybody there except for my friend Harry, who Tim know and Terry knows. Had lived there before and came back and sent me, and I was very welcome. But on the way there, I'm detoxing on this airplane, and I'm with this Dutch team, soccer team, and they're asking me, do I want to get drunk? Duh. So I get drunk on this airplane, and I land at Tel Aviv airport at Lod, and security is tough, okay? Here I am with a full beard, hair down my back, and I don't understand these people pushing their luggage with their feet, but they're all waiting in line, going through security, and security is not like you've been here. You've never seen anything like it, trust me. And they pulled me aside, and they put me in this little office, and they asked me what I'm doing here. I said, I'm going to a kibbutz to work as a volunteer, and they started questioning me. Here I got a passport with a one-way ticket, full beard, hair with a ponytail, and $200 in my pocket. Naturally, they thought I was a terrorist, okay? So I stayed in that office for about 6 hours till my ride, who I never met before, that was going to pick me up and take me to where I didn't know where I was going, was no longer there. So I was lost in a land that I'd never been before. But they came back for me, and I lived there for 5 years, and I actually joined the Israeli Defense Force and drove a tank. And I'm proud to say it was a help. Now, I didn't do any more drugs, but that's a lie. I did. I drank a lot. I didn't that's a lie. Israel is a very strange place where they think they can't stand is a lot. They can't stand a liar. They don't like dope fiends, okay? But being a good addict, like they said, you can go anywhere. Your shadow goes with you, okay? Now, you know I found the Bedouin and the Druze in the desert, and hashish was very cheap. And so I would buy what's called a keef in Hebrew. It's a kilo, like for $10, $15. And every American that lived on the kibbutz was my best friend. It was like Cheech and Chong in my bathroom because we had to close the window. If you open the windows, it was just a cloud. But I went and married an Israeli woman, and that's why I went into the Israeli Defense Force, which you have to. And it was one of the greatest experiences I ever had. Mark came for 2 weeks, and I couldn't get rid of him for 2 years. Okay, so he came and spent time with me, and he came back and started the business. That's what I wanted to get to, and then I came back and joined them. And it was a hell of how we did what we did, still don't know, but we made a successful business. I kept telling him to get sober. I was telling him to get sober. Okay, me. Okay? Well, he got sober first, and then, by the grace of God, him and his fiancée, now his wife, went to my mother, who was the codependent, that would take care of her son. And finally, they sat me down, and at home, they said to me, "You have a choice." My mother said this to me. I'll never forget this, and I cried. And it was the first time that I took to heart and knew that I had to do something. She looked at me with Mark and Cam sitting at the table, and she said, "Son, I miss you. I'll mourn you. And I cannot participate in any more of helping you fund your habits." And I knew she meant it. And I was sitting there, as my anniversary is 10/17/89. If no one knows what that is, because you're again too young, that was the day of the San Francisco or the World Series, okay, with the earthquake. I'm literally sitting in my room, loaded with one of my dear friends. Me and him went back to the old Triangle Club. We would come in late, 5 minutes late. He'd park in one corner, I'd park in another corner. He'd come in, he'd sit in one corner. I said, we never knew him. We finally met. He got sober. He had about a year, and he came over to my house on 10/17/89. High as a kite, TV went blank. I thought I lost my mind. And he said hello. I said, "Can you please take me?" And I went to Decatur Hospital for treatment. To get to him, he was a member here and took me to my first rock. Okay? Now, I was scared to death because first guy I met, I can say his name now, he's passed away, he's from Lincolnton, Georgia. A gentleman named Jimmy Smith. Very famous. They got a bridge name for him, okay? I come out of the car, and this gentleman comes up and hugs me and tells me he loves me. And I looked at John, I said, "John, you have to take me home. I can't be in the woods with 300 men and play this kind of shit, okay?" And they just all laughed at me, okay? They just laughed. I didn't know what I was getting into, but let me tell you something. If you haven't been to the Rock or a workshop, it took 10 years for me to get him to go. It's one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. I go once in a while. I don't go as often for different reasons. And I go to one in Roanoke, which I love, and I go to one in Leesburg, Florida. There's multiple. It's one of the greatest things I've ever done. If you've never done it as a man, and they have women's retreats also, I suggest you do it. But getting back to it, so I got very involved through sponsorship. And sitting in this room after my second sponsor, true story, and I didn't have it maybe 2 or 3 years. This gentleman moved back from Tennessee, but he's originally from Oakland, California, and went to the old Dog on the Roof Clubhouse. I've buried 3 sponsors, and one of them I think abandoned me, or I abandoned him right now. We still talk, but anyway, to make he came from Oakland, California, and this was a clubhouse where gentlemen were bikers, and they used to throw knives and bring guns, throw knives on their desk, but they were very big book oriented. So I'm sitting in the meeting, and Dennis just moved back from Tennessee, and Bob was my sponsor, and Bob introduced me as Dennis came in and was a speaker or discussion leader, and Dennis was Bob's sponsor, so he was my grand sponsor, and he looked at Bob and said, "Bob, you're fired. This guy is so sick, he's mine." So I got hired by Dennis. I didn't ask him to sponsor me. He told me he's sponsoring me. That's how sick I was. But because God, he really worked this. It was as we call it, a big book Nazi. We had it at his house or at my house every Thursday night. And to go on further, when we got to working the steps, and it came to the 4th and 5th step, and I wrote down and discussed it with him about making amends to my mother, who I stole who knows how much from my family, how to make amends to her. He just started laughing. I said, "I can't do this. How am I going to do it?" He says, "It's very easy." And he just laughed. We sat at a Waffle House, and we talked about the 5th step, and it was near the old Skyland Clubhouse, because we used to go to Skyland. And he told me, "Well, look, you're never going to be able to pay her back what you stole from her. Here's my suggestion." I said, "We don't ask people, our sponsors, the right questions or trust anybody enough to discuss it. And by me doing this, it's so simple. He says, buy her flowers every week and bring them to her." And I did. And she called me over one day and she said, "Alan, quit buying me flowers." We were trying to run a business and make a life for ourselves. And he says, "Keep the money you need." Okay? And so I realized that as hard as it was to know how to do it, to find out the results, how silly and how easy it was, even though it's really not easy. And when you feel about it, till you feel that it's time to do it, it's not easy. But it was. It made the whole thing, my whole life change. My mother was my mother again. We had a great relationship. I was the oldest of the 3, and like my father used to say, he has one of each. And we have a sister in between us who says she's sober 35 years, but that's another story, okay? She may not have had a drink in 35 years, but sober, I don't know. But my father said he has one of each. I'm the oldest, and my sister's the only girl, so we haven't figured out what Mark is yet. But we had one of each. But he's sober. And he's very active. Now, he's got more time than me, and I didn't force him. I kept leading him down the path till he went to the workshop. But my brother is very active in AA. He's probably more active than most people that I know. Okay, I'm very active. Sponsorship, starting meetings, opening meetings, still trying to open up another meeting right now. Very active. This is all about the steps and doing it in the family healing. Now here, we didn't talk. We broke up, and it wasn't a pleasant breakup. When you say what happened, this isn't sobriety, okay? We broke up, and it was not nice. And it wasn't pleasant. That's why I changed clubhouses and went different directions. Just I didn't want to be near him. But we talked. We talked not often, but we talked. And by working the steps, by him doing his thing and me doing my thing, we went full circle. We are like we used to be growing up. He's truly my brother, and I can depend on him for anything if I ever needed anything. And I think he feels the same way about me, and that says a lot about the fellowship, sponsorship, okay, AA, for people that don't think it works. I can tell you it works, okay? Like I said, I was part of my niece's beautiful wedding. She's now pregnant, and, she writes me lovely notes, anything I would give her for stuff that we do. I mean, she is part of my family. My daughter and her are 13 months apart, and totally two different people, but they're very good friends, okay? And her husband, my new nephew, loves my daughter. They're very good friends. We go out to dinner. I mean, they always sit next to each other and talk. And it's unbelievable to see the healing of a family. So if you guys have family and don't think it, I'm telling you, if you keep coming back and work like that, when I sat back in that corner drooling from being high, waiting for the meeting to end for my mother to come pick me up, and they hugged me, tell me to keep coming back. Keep coming back. Okay? I hope you don't have to go through the 17 years of me when I picked up my first chip at the old Highland Club. And it's moved 10 different times now, but I did. And I won't tell you how many white chips I had. People say they only had one white chip. That's BS, okay? Because even if you only picked up one white chip, you relapsed 35,000 times before, okay? Maybe one white chip, this next thing is one white chip. Okay? So that's my opinion, okay? Anything that makes you feel good is fine. One white chip. Okay, I relapsed for 17 years, okay? But I know people that said they only pick up one white chip, but they relapsed 25,000 times before they picked that one white chip that they didn't, what they call relapse from a white chip. But by the grace of God, so anyway, we split up, and it was terrible, and you see our relationship. He came here. I've told my story 4 or 5 or 6 times here. Tim asked me to do it for his birthday. I've got a friend coming, Mark did it. I did it 7, 8 months ago, and they asked Mark. Mark came up the next month and did it. We had a friend, Eric, that did it last month. And I got a good group of guys. We go to a meeting on Saturday morning. A couple of them go to a different, but we have breakfast every morning. We meet on Saturday morning and breakfast. And it's nothing about AA. It's the fellowship and having fun and having a treat, people that you can depend on. If I have a problem, I can call any one of them and they will be there for me, and I know that. I truly know that. Okay? I know Terry for as long as I've been sober, okay? I think we got sober about the same time. Had a great sponsor. I love the sponsor. And he got very involved in the rock like I did because of his sponsor. And I don't see Terry that much, but I know if I called Terry, he would be there. I know if I call either one of Tim's, they would be there for me. Okay? That's how it works. And the one thing I will say, someone dear to me in this room says, say it. You say it. Come on.
You're speaking, not me. One of 2 things going to happen. Good story.
Amen. Come on.
Not my place.
It is. It's your saying. Come on.
One of 2 things going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to work out. It's going to work out.
It's going to work it. That's right. He said that, and it's true. It's going to work out just the way it's supposed to. Not the way you want to, but it's going to work out. You got to have faith. And I'll say something, how I stay centered to God. I read my daily reflection. I pray every morning. I read my daily reflection, which my first sponsor gave me, my first birthday. He signed it. It's got the date on it. I read it every day. It's falling apart, but I keep it and I won't throw it away. I read it every day. 365 days a year. I think like I say, I can't repeat what I read this morning, but I read it. I promise you I read it, okay? I read it. That's all he asked me to do, and I did. Okay? And it's true. But I do it every morning, and to have Dennis, my next to last sponsor that passed away, told me, because I wanted to be, said, how do I stay God-centered or have my connection with God? And this may help you. It helps my sister, God rest her, that's 35 years. And I'll make fun of it. She hasn't really done 35 years, which is still a big deal. And she has other things going on, but she does the best she can. We make fun of it, but she really does. I told her this. I told my daughter, who just turned 30, December 30th. She's never seen me drink, okay? His daughter never seen him drink, okay? But Dennis told me when the clock, digital clocks, when it turned like 111 or 222 or 333 or 444, he said, that's God's time. And it stuck with me. And every time it does, I would text my sister. I say, it's God's time. And if I didn't do it, in return, it caught her, it's God's time. And then my daughter started doing it. And it's just a way of having some kind of connection with God. And that's, once you do that and you establish it and your life, you'll see it change, to give it a chance. I sit here and we talk. I truly got a friend who has been out of federal penitentiary about 15, 16 years that because God should have been me with him, and I wasn't there at the time. And by me staying in touch with him, he is now sober 15 or 16 years. Okay, and I call him back and forth. And I got friends that come by where I work that we used to hang out and run heavy, and they don't drink or they don't go to meetings, but they don't drink. They come by and ask me favors. Come by, we go to have lunch, or take me to lunch. But it's my life's changed, and they want to be around me. They see the difference. I mean, I go to my neighborhood, and I'm welcome again. I lost a girlfriend. It'll be 6 years in March after being divorced 3 times. And my sister-in-law introduced me to a lady about a month ago. I hadn't dated in 6 years, okay? So that's a big deal. It's God doing for me what I can't do for myself, okay? So if you don't believe it, I can give you instance after instance. As long as I stay in the program, stay in the middle of the bed, do what I'm told, have a reinforcement, have the fellowship, have a sponsor or sponsors, because my fellowship is like my sponsors, because my sponsor thinks I'm doing so well that he don't need to sponsor me. That's what drives me crazy. Oh, you're doing great. That's great. That's not what I need. I really need a sponsor. I'm actively looking for a new sponsor now. Hey, 36 years, I need a sponsor, to my own device. There go out, brother. I need a sponsor, okay? And for you people that don't have a sponsor, I would say, please get a sponsor. And when we raise our hands, I'm going to be honest, I have a problem. The big problem is they say temporary sponsor. I really don't, a lot of times I don't raise my hand. Because there is no temporary sponsor. You need a sponsor. You can always change. I fired Dennis worked for me and my brother. I fired his ass as an employee and a sponsor, okay? And it says it. It says it in there'll come a time we'll be on the same journey but going on different paths, okay? And we were like an example. We both were going to LA, but we were going different routes, okay? And it was just time to move on. And you know it. And then my daughter, who's wonderful, turned 30, like I said, December 30th. How many ever heard that? as a 10-year-old, I got custody of a child from a divorce. That the judge looked at me and told me I'm crazy. Most men would say, I got my secretary and my Corvette downstairs. We're going on vacation. Can we move on? And I fought for my daughter and got custody of my 10-year-old child. She's now 30, doing great, and I'm very proud of her. But that's a big deal for a single guy. And we had broken up, and I started over again. And I've had 3 jobs, and every job I've had, I've excelled and been at the top of the field with all kinds of accolades and trophies and everything, which doesn't. All I do is produce, get paid, and move on and be responsible for my child. My child now, 30 years old, owned her own home for 6 years. 24-year-old girl bought her own house, okay? Says a lot about her. She's got a job, somewhat responsible, kind of doesn't understand money that well, but does well enough to, and she does. I can't knock it, because at 24 I couldn't do it. And anybody who said they could do it, I think they're lying. I couldn't do it, but she does it. And I'm proud that she does it. And she says, Daddy, I learned from you. Because I used to drive her in my jobs because I had no choice. I had to pick her up after school and then continue to work. And she would see me and she says, I watched you, Dad. I watched what you did. And I knew what when I was in the car business. And I bought her a car for her graduation. She was on scholarship, and she graduated 3 years, summa cum laude, okay? And she goes, Dad, how did I get an apartment when I was after my freshman year of college? I said, well, did you have any student loans? She said, no, I got a scholarship. I said, do you have a credit card? Yeah, but it's your credit card, but it's my name on it. I said, well, do you owe anything on it? She says, no. That's because I said, I paid for everything. I didn't tell her that, but I said, you owe nothing on it. You got a car? Yes. You owe anything on it? I don't know. I said, no. When she went, she had a great credit score. She got an apartment, and she's lived that way since. I mean, I've helped her, but she takes care of. She doesn't need me. She needs me, but she doesn't need me for financial reasons. She just needs me as her dad for support. And I'm very proud to say that. I'm proud of her. So from all this to where I am today, here I am, top of my field, what I'm doing. I should retire. He keeps telling me to retire. I'm that kind of person that has to be involved with people and work. I've got daughters doing great. My relationship with my family is great. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but, life is good. I got it on my hat, okay? I got a bunch of good. This is one of my favorite things. When I moved in, got divorced, got married when I was 6.5 years sober. She was 6.5 years sober, got divorced. I was about 17 years sober. I moved into an apartment, sold the house, and right across from the apartment was a brand new apartment. There was a store, and they sold that. That was Life is Good, and I bought every shirt. Every time they came out, I got tons of shirts still in the hats because life has been good to me. I would have sold myself short, but life has been good to me. My family is back. My daughter's good. My health's good. God's been good to me, and I am grateful. And it's 40 minutes, really. I went over time. But anybody, believe me, this will work if you work it. That's all I can say. And congratulations on your 23rd birthday. I remember both of you guys coming in, so I'm proud of both of y'all. And thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you very much for your experience, strength, and hope, Alan. All right. We have asked Kat to do the chips.
Hey, y'all. I'm an alcoholic. Okay. have a chip system to mark our time in sobriety. Marks our quantity, not our quality. If you're coming in or coming back, we have a white chip. Come on up. After 30 days, 30 nights, we have a silver chip. For 60 days or 2 months, we've got a gold one. After 3 months or 90 days, we have a red chip. All right, yellow chip for 6 months. Green chip for 9 months. Blue chip for 1 year or multiples.
Tim Moore is my sponsor, and he was the first guy that basically shook my hand when I came in for my first meeting. And he handed me a big book, and he said, listen, just keep it simple. Go home, get on your knees, ask your higher power for the strength not to drink tonight, and open up this big book, and you won't have to drink. And he was right. I fell asleep with that book on my chest, and I woke up sober for the first time in months, and I remembered that. I never forgot it. Next time I came back to the speaker meeting, he was here, and I've just been following him around like a little puppy dog. So if anybody needs a really good sponsor, Tim is great. Alan, did you hear that? Tim is a really good sponsor.
Good smart for that. Thanks, Tim. My name is Tim. I'm an alcoholic. And 23 years. Wow. Thank you, Mark, for coming. You know I love you guys, and I really look up to you. I really do. And talk about the rock. I was reminding him today. I doubt he remembers it, but I was a few months sober. I went to my first rock. 300 guys running around in the woods there, and I don't think I knew 2 people there. And he knows everybody, absolutely everybody. And we go over and we sit down at a table and we talk at least an hour. Well, I talked. He listened. Thank God. I don't think
It's hard because we would be quiet.
Yeah, I don't think he had a. Thank God he didn't have a tape recorder. And he listened. I might not be here if it hadn't happened for that. I might, but I might not. Who knows? Because, I'm scared. I don't know anybody. And all of a sudden, I belong. And you remember things like that. And, so if you got a newcomer that sounds crazy, you never know what will happen if you spend a little time. AA has been so good to me. I know we always have a lot of new people at this meeting, and it's great. I don't want to talk to them, but just to give you an example, I came in, and here at NABA, just coming to meetings. I'm still in AA 101. I got to tell you, and I'm happy there. I'm still in AA 101. But I met my wife in this room. Now, we were friends for 4 years before we ever kissed, but I got a year more than her. And it wasn't because I was so disciplined. She just was not sure I was for real. And, but 4 years, but we've been married now for 18 years. I was here, and I heard Bobby Jones. I was maybe 3 months. I heard Bobby Jones pick up a chip, and he talked about, and he said, I got my felony pardoned off my record. And I had a felony, and I thought, wow, I wonder if that could ever happen to me. Fast forward about 3 years, I got an attorney. That same attorney has helped some friends of ours you guys would know. I applied, and I got my felony pardoned. The next year, I applied for a job at Northside Hospital in the business office. They met with the person. They said, man, we love this, but we found this little thing on your record here. I said, wait a minute. And I show them my pardon. I said, that's all we need. I've been there 18 years. I'm still working at Northside, and I love my job. You don't know what's going to happen if you come in here and do fasting and get sober. You really don't know where it's going to lead. My son's 30 years old. He's been sober 7 years. He does it through a religious organization, and that's great. But I've got 3 grandkids. He's a successful attorney. We couldn't be closer. And, and it all started with one of these. It just all started. And if I can do it, really anybody can do it. And my wife says it best. She said, it's like water skiing. I just came in and held on, and you guys pulled me up. And that's the way I feel. So thanks, everybody.
First I slept, and then I crept to a hope-filled dream. where I see. I look into love's window for a soul that's meant for me. Takes me where the promises are real. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slow, we get just what we need. On a broad highway, stride for stride, we walk eternally. I look into love's window for a heart that beats for me. Takes me where the promises are real. And I always long for something that sets me free. And I love to a world in harmony. Below there's a vision that one day would appear to me. Take me where the promises are real. Take me where the promises